Hello everyone, this is Brock Skaggs, and we're making a short video talking about the rib feature inside of SolidWorks. And so the rib feature is right up here next to draft and linear pattern on the command manager, the ribbon interface, or you can go to insert, features, and then rib feature here as well. And so to talk about the rib feature, I've modeled a simple part here inside of SolidWorks. If you were actually to make this in reality, I'm imagining it would probably be multiple parts that you then somehow attach, maybe weld together. The idea is I have some circular flat plate with a series of holes and in a bolt circle, and then I've got some kind of piece of pipe that I've got a hole drilled through it that I've attached to it. And the idea is I'm going to have this thing mounted to some surface, and then I'm going to pull on it with some load. And so just to give that some familiarity with what I'm describing, I've went ahead and ran a static study. Looks like I need to rerun it here, so I'll just right click and say mesh and run. You can see here the solver's running. And so I ran it rather quickly. And what do we have here? So I've got a roller set of fixtures or constraints here at the bottom, so that's kind of acting as if it's sitting on a surface that can push up in that vertical direction. And then I've also got a series of fixed constraints down here. Think of that as if there was like bolts that are holding all those holes in the correct location or in their unloaded states there. And then let's say I take some force, apply it through these holes, and pull on it in the X direction. That's kind of in the horizontal direction here, kind of the direction you can see it's bending with a magnitude of 8,000 pounds. And so we could talk about this but in terms of the stresses, but long story short, let's say it's being stressed too much for our application there. And so we need to stiffen this thing up, make it a little stronger, particularly to loads in this X direction. And so one way you may do that is start by investigating putting some rib geometry here or some sort of gusset on this location and this location here on the part. And so that's exactly what this rib feature is going to allow us to do inside of the modeling of SolidWorks. And so to make this rib feature, first I need to think of what plane I'm going to make my initial sketch on. In this case, the front plane is placed appropriately. I'm going to have it basically where the rib is sitting right in the middle of the part in that front plane. So I'll just go ahead and create a nice two-dimensional sketch on the front plane. Alright, so next we need to make a sketch of what our rib's profile is going to look like. And so you could get pretty exotic. Like if I wanted to, I could have some sort of rib with kind of an angled arc here if I wanted to. But instead, I'm just going to make it to where it has a nice triangular shape there. And one of the nice things about the rib feature is I could actually make this rib feature with just this line segment here. I don't have to actually enclose a region, kind of like we're used to with regular boss extrudes. And so let's go ahead and fully define this rib at this point. And so I'll just say, hey, it's a 1/4 inch from the edge, and let's call it 3.75 inches tall there. Alright, so I've fully defined this line. You can see everything's black. The sketch is staying as fully defined. And I'll just hop out of this sketch. Now sketch 8 is still selected, so it is the active sketch. And with it selected, I'm going to come right up here to the rib tool. And so the rib tool accepted sketch 8 as the deriving piece of geometry for the cross section or the profile of the rib. And now we can go normal to and say, okay, I've got an arrow pointing here off and to the right. And so we'll actually need to flip that. That arrow is pointing to the direction that SolidWorks is going to pull that line in space in order to create the rib geometry. Here off and to the right, it's not going to intersect the other pieces of geometry here that are to the left, so it would cause an error. So I'm just going to left click on that arrow right in the model space there, and you can see how I now am pulling that line down and to the left. It'll definitely intersect the part geometry here, which is what we want. Another thing that we can look at from the rib is how it uses the sketch plane as a reference to where the geometry lies. And so it starts off, looks like centered, which is what I want, but I could also say, hey, I want this to be on the left side by clicking this icon, or the second side, which would be the right side in this case, by clicking this button here. Or I can say, hey, I want it to be right in the middle. Looks like you can also apply a draft angle if you really wanted to. But that's all looking good. Now notice when I accept this feature, SolidWorks is going to pull that line again down toward the other part geometry and create the rib feature itself there. So notice how quick that was to actually create that rib geometry. I didn't even have to have a sketch that had a closed profile there. It was just a single line there describing this outer geometry of the rib. Also, just to kind of complete what I wanted to do, I want to put the rib on this side as well. Well, the rib feature is just the same as other solid geometry features like boss extrudes, cut extrudes. You can mirror and pattern them just like any other feature. So I'll just go ahead and mirror this rib. I'll get the mirror tool going. Let's say mirror across the right plane in this case. And I'll pick the rib from the tree structure there. And so now I can create a second rib on the other side of the part. All right, so that looks good. So hopefully that's all making sense. Hopefully this gets you acquainted, at the very least, with the rib feature in SolidWorks. It's a fairly simple tool. It's kind of a niche case, but man, when you need a rib, it is definitely the tool for the job. So as always, thanks for watching the video.